Guys and gals, and welcome. So today we're gonna have some fun with a new build. I kind of theory crafted it last night, but we're gonna dive into it more today because it's definitely worth looking into. Plus, I'll share it with the boys and see if they like the idea as well, because there is a base idea to it that actually creates the build in the first place, and then everything else is just like icing on top of the cake. Let's go Diablo a Fear. Boop. And let's hop into the game. Yeah, why not? What's up, guys?
What's up?
Are you ready to see silliness, Leon? Absolute silliness? Like crack cocaine hamster inside of a pinball machine silliness?
Or hamster.
Because that's what I've created. Basically, I figured out a way to make Rushing Claw, like, always active. So you can just hold down the button. Isn't there a Storm Feather option that, like, spawns from mobility skills? Or is it... It's just mobility skills in general?
Yep.
Yeah, well, you can pretty much just hold down for Rushing Claw at this point. The key to it is is the reset. It has a reset function. So it allows you to reset it if you have at least 4 ferocity. And you can basically set it up so that you always have 4 ferocity, no matter what. Queued for game start, game pending. What? Wow, are there a million people logging in today? Or like, am I just lagged up? I want to start the game. So you know how Ravager gives you a minimum of like 2 ferocity no matter what? Like if you have it on your bar? If you bring it up to 5, it goes to 3. If you bring it up to 10, it goes to 4. So you basically will always have 4 ferocity on your bar, no matter what. The actual ability of Rushing Claw allows you to spend 4 ferocity stacks to basically just reset all of the stacks. So you just get all of the stacks back. And once you get all the stacks back, you can just keep going. And if you have it set up so that you have level 10 Ravager, which is actually really easy to do, you basically just need a pair of boots like this that have a +3 Ravager, and then you just need to put 1 GA on it, which is really easy. And then you just masterwork it like normal up to 10. Once it gets to around 9 or 10, like it's got +5 Ravager, and you're pretty much done. And at that point, you have Rushing Claw that can be spammed with the speed of, I don't even know, 88 miles an hour going back to the future. I already made a Torment 4 capable build with it, but I was thinking about incorporating the Storm Feathers into it, going down a different pathway. I thought that could be interesting.
You would use the aspects, not the spirit hall.
That got most of it.
Well, I mean, you could still evade. It's not like evading would be out of the question, but yeah, you don't necessarily need to use the Spirit Hall bonus, because the Spirit Hall bonus is specifically with evading.
Yeah, like counterproductive if you're spamming that.
I mean, it's not even just like the ability to spam it. It's also just how it helps you move through the dungeon. Like when we were doing our runs and we were trying to get to the other side, to the portal as fast as possible, leaving the first floor for them. Rushing Claw would get you to the portal in like a fraction of the time, like a quarter of the time that we were getting there previously. You would just be able to use the monsters to Rushing Claw your way through the entire arena. And you'd be doing damage as you go, but it wouldn't be like you'd be stopping and killing anything. You would just be Rushing Clawing your way through the entire pack. All the way to the portal, and then you could use it as a mobility skill whenever you need to use it as a mobility skill. It just works crazy. I also had a glitch happen last night. And I can't figure out what the glitch is. But if I can figure out what the glitch is, I think we might have a really good poison build too. So when I was fighting Varshan last night with this new Rushing Claw build, I had a very odd interaction happen toward the end of the stream. I kind of want to get your opinion on it because I already like went back over it and I tried to see exactly what was going on, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out exactly what was happening. It looked as if the stagger had somehow caused a chain reaction or something, which led to Varshan's HP bar completely filling with damage over time effect. And when I mean like completely filling with damage over time effect, I mean like in a fraction of a second, everything that was left of his HP filled with DOT damage. And I couldn't figure out exactly what was causing it. I do have toxic skin, and that's the only DOT damage that I have. And so what I had kind of thought was happening was that maybe like the toxic skin was interacting with the Rushing Claw. And like as I was going back and forth over Varshan like repeatedly, it was somehow like applying the poison damage like a massive number of times or something. I don't know. Here's like a little clip of it right here. So I think it's like right here. Yeah. All right, here it is. So right here I stagger him, right? And the moment that I stagger him, I don't know what occurred in this particular moment, but all of a sudden his entire HP bar is instantaneously filled with damage over time. And you can see it only takes like a fraction of a second. And in that fraction of a second, he is now completely filled with DOT damage. Not just like a fraction of his HP, but it was everything that was left. All in like 0.5 seconds. And I think it had some sort of something to do with an interaction between Toxic Skin and Rushing Claw, but I don't know. It's really weird. At first, what I thought was happening, because, you know, when you use Toxic Skin, it leaves a puddle, right? So I was thinking that maybe, like, the puddle trail or whatever that was happening from Toxic Skin was, like, stacking on him to the point of oblivion.
It would have to be the trail, right? Because he's not hitting you because he's staggered. So it's not the hit part. It's not the initial part. It's got to be the trail.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what's causing it there, other than it's got to be the trail.
Well, because you're moving with Rushing Claw, you're causing like a ton of trails. Like
I don't.
You're dropping.
I don't know. And that led me to think, well, if it's an interaction between Toxic Skin and Rushing Claw, then maybe this aspect, because there's that one aspect with Rushing Claw. It's called Temporal Incisions. It's the one that makes your Incarnate skills last for like 8 seconds longer whenever you Rushing Claw. So you could potentially use that to enhance the duration of Toxic Skin, so that Toxic Skin is lasting. It doesn't fall off, and so the entire time you're Rushing Clawing, you're just applying poison damage everywhere. I mean, that could be kind of interesting if the interaction is happening the way that I think it is. I mean, I'm not even a poison damage character. That's what kind of like flipped me back. I was like, okay, well, I'm not a poison damage character. I don't have like the Jaguar tree. I'm not running Bane. I don't have like a whole bunch of poison modifiers. So like, what would happen if you did like set up a
He actually built it.
like a rushing claw, toxic skin with temporal incisions, and then just set it up so you're trying to get as much poison damage as you can through like the AoE effects. I mean, technically you could have toxic skin running, which is going to be an AoE because obviously you're going to be spreading it all over the place. You could also have Scourge running at the same time with the increased duration, so that that's running the entire time that you're rushing clawing. So you're just rushing clawing around everywhere, applying two different poisons.
What are the tempers for toxic skin? Because if you notice, toxic skin has built-in duration increase, and it has a built-in 100% multiplier. Like it has a ton of built-in like poisoning. It was like the best one on the tree. So if you can make use of this, it's probably the best poisoning you could do. I'm curious what the tempers are for it.
I don't know. It would probably be in utility, right?
If there's more duration, that's going to be insane.
Okay, so it's
Or
not
anything.
in it's not in utility. I mean, no. Mm,
It'd be defense, right? Nothing. It doesn't even have a temper.
checking
Maybe
the
a weapon temper.
weapons.
That's the only one left, right?
I mean, we got primary centipede, hull, potency, devour, stinger, withering fist, touch of death, scourge, poisoning duration, ravenous. What is ravenous?
Awaits your return.
Why am I completely blanking on what ravenous is?
One of the passives, right?
Oh yeah, it's one of the poison passives. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Let me check the Diablo 4.life because I can search. Maybe I'm just not seeing it.
Maybe they just don't even have one and it doesn't matter, but that's kind of funny. That I mean that's probably a good thing because then it opens up Shattered Vow and stuff. You don't have to worry about like missing something.
No, there's no tempers. Toxic skin isn't on there.
Probably a good thing.
Yes, the HP drop glitch. Oh, I haven't even played it yet. Let me go play it real quick. You want to see this stupid, ridiculous build? I was playing around with an idea last night about Concussive Stomp, and I wanted to see if I could potentially make Concussive Stomp, like, through thorns, like, hit the entire screen and have, like, tons of Concussive Stomps, like, you know, occurring as fast as I can possibly get them. And then what ended up happening was, is I created a monster, and, like, yeah, I got my Concussive Stomps, but I also had to... I was trying to get the Concussive Stomps to fire in a circle, and there's the aspect of kinetic suppression, which is the one that makes it so that when you cast a non-basic mobility skill, you get 8 resolve, and then you also have your Concussive Stomp strike in a circle around you, which was the entire goal. It was basically just to try to get Concussive Stomp to fire in a circle. And what we ended up coming up with is Rushing Claw was like the best option for this, because it's a mobility skill, and it can be spammed. And utilizing the 10 Ravager, we were able to get basically infinite spam of it. So the Concussive Stomp always fires in a circle every single time. And then using the Rune Word, we just have like Concussive Stomps firing just like randomly as we're going through the dungeon. Like it's not even an issue. And we also use Concussive Stomp and a bunch of other stuff. It's pretty crazy. And the Thorns damage is applying to every single Concussive Stomp and the Rushing Claw as well. So I basically just have full Thorns damage on everything. And that's just the Thorns version. I was thinking there's quite a few different versions you could probably put together with this. Easily. I have it set up right now where, like, I literally just make a Concussive Stomp happen, like, constantly. So I don't even really have to press the button. It just automatically does a Concussive Stomp every, like, certain number of attacks. Because technically Rushing Claw is a cooldown. So, like, I think it's like three or four Rushing Claws for each Concussive Stomp. Which happens pretty darn quickly. I'm also using Alcridity, so that Concussive Stomp is basically just always active for me to use whenever I want to. Ha.
I don't know if this guy's paying me 10 billion for the plus for the rake or for the perfect aspect, but I'll take 10 billion.
$10 billion. Oh, you mean gold?
Wish it was dollars.
I used to think $1 billion was a lot, but now it just seems like everybody's charging $1 billion for everything, like base price.
Yep. Inflation hit real.
No Chinchilla today? No, no Chinchilla. Mr. Kubus the Monster Dog is up here with me, so no Chinchilla while he's up here. That's right, I said your name. He said, why are you saying my name on stream? He says, don't talk about me. Kubus the Monster Dog. Does Kubus the Monster Dog want a cheesy? Does he want a cheesy here? Would you like one of these? Oh, you don't want one? Yes. The day you stop eating food, I'm gonna get real worried. I'm gonna be like worried sick over here. Be like, he stopped eating. He doesn't want a snack. You don't understand. He always wants a snack. He always wants a snack. See, now I want to try and set up a poison build with this. be fun to see, like, just how good it works. I don't know. I don't really know how much poison damage it would add in.
Well, the thing that interests me most is the Shattered Valve version, because that's what we're trying to build forever. And I have the Touch of Death thing, but it doesn't like feel the greatest. It works, but if you could actually fill up the bar, that was the whole point of what we were trying to do this entire time.
What is that, the Craze of the Death God? The one that,
Those gloves.
yeah, it's the one that makes it a lucky hit chance to Touch of Death monsters. What if you threw those into the mix?
I don't think they have bad. I think it's
It's a 25% chance to infect a monster with Touch of Death. That's what it is. Based on the amount of poisoning that you have on your character, according to what it says.
based on your poisoned life percentage to infect an enemy with Touch of Death.
I mean, it seems like it would feed into exactly what we're trying to create. So we go with Rushing Claw, right? We have Ravager on the bar, so we can get the Rushing Claw infinite. We use Toxic Skin, so that we have Toxic Skin, you know, like working for us. You could also potentially throw in Touch of Death, but not even put it on the bar. I don't even think you need it on the bar because technically you'd be lucky hit proccing the Touch of Death on the monsters. They would be infected. They'd probably make the swarms. You could go with the swarm explosions. You could probably also pull in Andes within the build as well for the lucky hit proc on that. That would give you Toxic Skin poisoning. That would give you the Touch of Death poisoning. That would give you the explosion from the Touch of Death explosioning. And then you would also grab probably Scourge in the mix too. I don't see any reason why not, because Scourge can be always active. I mean, you got a lot going on there, like as far as poisoning effects that could happen, like, you know, as you're just like spamming around with your Rushing Claw. I mean, I like Scourge because Scourge is an AoE effect, which would obviously follow you as you're rushing around. So I think that's a solid option. Touch of Death, you could put points in Touch of Death, and you could grab the invasive Touch of Death, which is the swarms burst every second applying poisoning damage. So if you get the infection, I don't know if the infection... I'm pretty sure the infection gives you the swarms. So you're going to end up with 3 swarms, like as you're going around, and you're going to create more swarms, so they're going to start exploding. So the goal here would be probably 5 in Toxic Skin, 5 in Folk Scourge, 5 in Touch of Death. I don't even know if the infection damage goes up with the skill damage of Touch of Death, but you probably still at least want invasive Touch of Death so that you get the poisoning damage on the swarms. And then I suppose you could use the Devourer as well. He actually does follow you. The Devourer follows you around. He's not a static one like the Protector or the Seeker. And he's not a movement ability like the Hunter, but he does literally follow you around. So, like, it would function well with the way that this is working. I mean, Stinger's out pretty much entirely. I don't know.
I don't even see a dot when you slowed it down. I'm looking for like an actual tick. I don't even see a tick, which is interesting.
I don't know exactly what caused it. If I'm being perfectly honest, I can't figure it out. But like in a fraction of a second, you can see his entire HPR bar fills up with DOT
What's left?
damage,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
just and it's if it was only a percentage of that final remaining, I wouldn't be like super excited, but it was the entire thing. Like it was all of his HP in an instant.
Yeah, I don't see like a like a 200 mil or a billion like dot tick to make that even
I mean,
happen. It just
I am using this, so let's put this on the table too. So I am using Felsu Slayer. So it could be that what happened is I made him vulnerable. I cast an incarnate skill, which Toxic Skin is an incarnate skill. It has poison damage. I then poisoned him like 1,000 times really fast with Rushing Claw right at the moment that he was staggered. Perhaps the staggering, of course, amplified that because then he's technically crowd controlled. And then maybe the Felsu Slayer exploded with poison damage on the enemy. Maybe the Felsu Slayer is mimicking the damage type and not just mimicking the damage. So maybe it took the poisoning damage and multiplied it and sent it back to him. I mean, it could be. It says when you cast an incarnate skill, enemies around you become vulnerable for 5 seconds. Killing a vulnerable enemy echoes 45% of the killing blow's damage to nearby enemy. But, like, there were other enemies in the arena. Did I kill another enemy? Like one of those, like, little crappy monsters, the ones that he summons? Did I, like, poison that guy up and then, like, kill him, and that's what spread the damage to the boss? I don't know. Or maybe it can't be a coincidence that it happened when he was staggered. So maybe Felsuth Slayer applies the damage that's done to the monster upon staggering. Maybe that's what's happening. So maybe, I know it doesn't say it on there, but it could be that it has a boss mechanic in that, like, it automatically applies the damage to the monster when the boss is staggered. Because it was instantaneous as soon as he was staggered. Like, it can't be a coincidence that the boss was staggered instantly, and then as soon as the boss was staggered, the damage popped up directly after he was staggered. So maybe the Felsu Slayer stored up the poison damage that I was dealing to him and then delivered it back to him as soon as he was staggered. Or maybe I killed a monster. I don't know. I could have killed
I
a
didn't
monster.
see any monsters on the screen when you have it slow down. I don't see a single dot, or I don't see anything out there to echo any damage.
But it was a lot. It was a lot of damage really fast. Very interesting. Let's put a let's do like a quick theory craft just for fun. This is the one that I just made, which I don't even think I can. Oh, I can save it. Okay. Pinball thorns. There you go. Pinball thorns. All right, let's make a new one. Okay, so I mean, I don't see any reason including Shattered Vow in this would be a bad idea. So we go Shattered Vow, or we could potentially go Nessikum the Herald. I don't really know which one would be better. But Shattered Vow, let's pretend we're doing Shattered Vow. So first off, there's the Rushing Claw aspect, which I think we probably want to include in this, which is Temporal Incisions. Temporal Incisions gives you the increase in duration for Toxic Skin, which I think is pretty instrumental in getting us what we want, which is to have a really large amount of poisoning damage. We probably end up using the Devourer. I don't see any reason why not. It's the only one that's gonna like follow us as we're pinballing around the screen. Also, in my experience, I found that the Plains Torment aspect is, or the Plains Power aspect is basically useless with this build because you're just moving too much. And I mean, it's not like it doesn't work. Like, it can work on bosses and stuff like that because obviously the boss is pretty stationary and the Plains Power will sit on top of their head. But for the majority of the dungeons and stuff like that, yeah, it's going to be useless for you. Then we're looking at the Scourge aspect, which is the menacing aspect. I think that's also one that you would want to include in here because that gives you Scourge active all around you basically for 9 seconds, more than what it normally is. So that means you'd have permanent uptime on Scourge, which would be just fine. I think Fell Soothsayer is actually really good for this build because, number one, it provides you with vulnerable all the time because you're going to be spamming Toxic Skin, and Toxic Skin is an incarnate skill. So you're just going to have permanent uptime of Toxic Skin, as well as you are going to be using Rushing Claw as your main ability, which leaves 2 other abilities that we could potentially add to the bar. I mean, you could use Armored Hide for the Resolve, or what's the one I'm using that's giving me Resolve? That's the Concussive Stomp one, so that's not really like super important. I'm assuming you'd probably use Ebiwaka with this, since it's a very poison-based build. You could potentially... Oh, no, you'd probably use Andes. That's right, Andes. What am I thinking? So you go Andes, Shattered Vow, Fell Soothsayer, Temporal Incisions, Menacing. And we're still wide open for offensive aspects. Like, I haven't put a single offensive aspect on here yet. So I guess you'd probably put, like, Creeping Death or something
The amulet.
on the amulet. I mean, Rushing Claw itself doesn't do any poison damage, but it does Lucky Hit and cause Andariel's Visage to proc, so I guess there's at least that.
Oh, I guess now it just depends if you want to try those gloves and build Touch of Death into it or just leave it out.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, like, other offensive aspects and, like, what you could potentially throw in there. It's kind of an interesting aspect. You have a 60% chance to gain 1 ferocity when you crowd control an enemy or apply any stagger to any boss. Just basically gives you a way to build ferocity that doesn't even... You wouldn't even worried about, like, the other methods. I mean, Aspect of Infestation sounds like an interesting one, but I don't know. It's the one that makes it so there's a 35% chance for any centipede skill to spawn a Pestilent Swarm. I mean, I don't know about going into the Pestilent Swarms, but we're already going into the Pestilent Swarms with the gloves. Can you put runes in mythics? Yes, you can, Jason. You can put runes in anything that has 2 sockets. Anything that has 2 sockets. Moving with a
Does the
mobility.
toxin skin's damage increased by weapon damage? Because if it is, then you're going to want unyielding hits in the build.
I think Insatiable Aspect is really important here as well. Because if we're getting it at the touch of death swarms, I feel like we want the bursting. That's like not even a question. And on top of that, like if we go the right direction with the points in touch of death, we get the poison swarms. So the swarms will be dealing poison damage. And I think the Craze of the Dead God is like a really good option here. I'm not entirely sure how you completely counter the poison damage coming in. I mean, it doesn't... The Craze of the Dead God doesn't seem like it's doing more damage to you than you would otherwise normally be taking. So there's that. So, you know, direct damage has up to a 25% chance based on your poison life percentage to infect an enemy with touch of death. When you would take direct damage, it is instead distributed as poisoning damage over the next 10 seconds. But it's increased by, you can get like 0%. But the thing is that you get like a massive amount of anti-venom from it. So it helps you counter the damage that the poison is doing. On top of that, it's not adding any additional damage. You're just taking the damage that you would normally be taking over poison, which combined with Andariels shouldn't be a problem really, because you're going to be generating large amounts of life through Andariels, so I don't really see it being a problem. It also gives bonus to Touch of Death, which is obviously going to help us out there. I mean, I suppose we could include Touch of Death in the build. I mean, it doesn't necessarily... not necessarily a bad thing.
Log over to my poison character and start making testing changes.
I mean, I feel like barrier becomes very important here. I think we need lots of barrier, and maybe Gorilla Primary for Spirit Hall might be the play. Just so that you can get essentially all the barrier in the world. Because how I found out, like played around with it earlier with like the Craze of the Dead God, is if you have barrier protecting your HP and you take the poison damage still applies under the barrier, but then when the monsters hit you, it takes it from the barrier instead of your HP. So you don't really have to worry too much about dying. But it does apply poison damage to you. I mean, it's not... it's kind of like difficult to like maintain it properly, but having like a constant income of barrier would definitely be helpful in that. What's up, Pork Sniffer? Mm-hmm. 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 I kind of feel like I don't really know what I'd pick for the secondary spirit. I mean, more healing wouldn't exactly be bad from the centipede secondary. Especially if we're going to be constantly bleeding out from the poison damage. I mean, we could still include Touch of Death on the bar, so we could just spam it whenever we need to. Ravager does have to be on the bar because Ravager is required to essentially make the build function. Otherwise, Rushing Claw just doesn't... it just doesn't function right. I mean, you can just like throw Ravager on like right click or something. I mean, we don't have a way for Resolve to stack, so I guess maybe Armored Hide. Like I don't see a Resolve stacking option in the build here. Can Menacing... Menacing can go on the boots. So you could potentially include Shroud of False Death in the build. I mean, that is an option. I mean, what are our other boot aspect options? Trying to see if there's anything like super crazy. Actually, I was thinking about Exploiter's aspect for this build. So because you apply Scourge to the monsters so often, and the monsters are constantly feared, I find that they are also often unstoppable. And having a free 45% times multiplier there wouldn't exactly be like a terrible thing. Because you're just applying crowd control so often, the monsters are just constantly unstoppable. You knock them down, they get back up, yada yada. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm not sure. We're not using that one in here, so it doesn't matter. Plains power isn't in the build, so we don't really need duelist. I mean, soil power could be interesting, but at the same time, soil power is not going to keep up with this. So that's a problem as well. I do feel like the wild bolt aspect could be really interesting, just to like pull the monsters around with you as you're going. It's like suck them with you all over the place. Give them the big suck. Or of course we could just go with something like Rakanoths, because it has non-physical damage on it. I mean, Rakanoths does increase poison damage. It'll help fix our resistances. And you can also potentially get cooldown reduction from it, which will help your spamming of Scourge, Toxic Skin, and the Devourer. It won't really have any effect on Rushing Claw because it doesn't matter. Bum, 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 bum. Bow, 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 wow, wow. Man, that looks so. The build already looks so fun. I might have to go play around with this. I mean, I don't see any reason why not. Nothing I have on this character is really required. I could transfer over the booties, but I could probably make another pair of those boots. It's not that big of a deal. Oh yeah, that's right. You can't use Rakanoth's Wake. It has to be a pair of legendary boots. Because that's where you get your +5 Ravager, and that's how you make the build work in the first place. So it has to be legendary boots. Which means we end up with an aspect. Maybe Aspect of Apprehension could be interesting here. The one that makes it so that once an enemy is slowed by 80%, they also become feared. But it says you deal 40% increased damage to feared enemies. You're going to be using Permanent Scourge, so the monsters are going to be feared all the time anyway, so it's just a free 40 times multiplier that you can add into the mix. And it should still apply to the bosses when the bosses go into crowd control. So, or stagger, so I don't really see like that being as a terrible option. Let's go over to my poison character. I believe they're set up for Withering Fist at the moment, but I don't think it really matters. Could be fun to see how it functions.
Yeah, so the main Russian Claw, Temporal Recursions, right? That's the main.
To get the Russian Claw.
You get it to extend the toxic skin.
Yeah, so you need Ravager on your boots. That's basically how that works. I'm just going to pull off her equipment and we will just reset it. I think I have a pretty good Craze of the Dead God sitting in my inventory too. Hmm. Okay, well that'll work. I can just use this armor. This is a Scourge size. So I want my Scourge to be really big. That is good. That is good. Do I have anything else that's doing fist size? So that's not what I want. Man, this guy never gives up on Lawbringer. He like comments about Lawbringer on every single video. His latest comment is, Lawbringer is great because it has Life Leech, Sanctuary Aura, so it hits undead hard, and Cast Decrepify, so you're busy casting summons. And I said, Lawbringer has no physical damage. It doesn't actually do any physical damage. It has elemental damage. This means that it doesn't have any Life Leech. To leech life, you have to deal physical damage, and it has no physical damage. I've had whole conversations with this guy about frickin' Lawbringer, and he just fails to see any of the reasoning. It's like a placebo. He thinks it's going to cure his cancer and also, like give him $1 million and buy him a car. And he believes it, and nobody's gonna convince him otherwise. You're not gonna convince him otherwise. How dare you think that you could? How dare you? Because you can't. Because you won't. Ain't happening. Wow, 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 wow. Let me see what Craze of the Dead God I got. Yeah. Unfortunately, it only has +1 to anti-venom, but it is a 0%er, which is what you want. It also has +3 to nourishment, which nourishment is the one that's healing, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah, that's the one. Increases your healing by 20%. Whenever you heal, your poisoning damage is increased by 18%. I mean, that feeds very well into Andariel's, which is exactly what you want with this kind of build. Because you're going to want to heal yourself constantly. Because you're going to be poisoning yourself constantly. So it's going to be like a whole back and forth little doodad. Now I got to roll Ravager on these pair of boots. I don't want to keep swapping my boots around to like multiple characters, so we're just going to get Ravager. It's got to be a 3 Ravager, and it needs to be greater. It needs to be greater masterworked 1 time at the very least.
So your minimum ferocity always stays at 4?
Yeah, you want it. Yeah, that's what you're looking for. You want it to make it so that your minimum ferocity always stays at 4. That way your rushing claw never runs out. I had a couple quirk situations where every now and then, like, there was a weird moment where, like, somehow it didn't give me the 4 ferocity back quick enough just at the right time that I was running out of stacks. But normally it doesn't happen. Like, it didn't, for the most part, like 99% of the time it was okay. So I'm trying to think here. Like, do we do Centipede or sorry, Touch of Death Swarm Duration as our second one. Because we can get Scourge Size and we can get Touch of Death Swarm Duration. So I would assume we want both, right? Since we're doing the Touch of Death Swarms.
Maybe. I have to see how it functions first before you get crazy, but yeah, the storm duration is good. Especially since you're not directly casting it. You want them to last out there, yeah. I'm gonna hit Boots and probably get rid of him with Ravager on them already.
Yeah, if it's got a greater affix, I don't even think you need 3. Or like very many masterworks. You don't even need the 25% on there. I think you get away without it. There is rushing claw charges, and there's also swift, and I played around with both of them, and basically what I came to the conclusion of is they were not necessary for this. Like you're essentially just gonna keep 100% uptime on it anyway. Like it doesn't even matter.
Okay, these are +3 Ravager boots. No greater FX. Oh, I have 4. Okay.
I think pretty much just movement speed, right? We just... Okay. And then I need a pair of panties. Pantalones. I need a pair of pantalones. I just want to slap it together and see how it works. Just slap it, boys. And then say, this ain't going nowhere. This ain't going nowhere. Hey, there's the pants I was trying to find yesterday. What the hell? Dude, I swear I couldn't find these to save my life yesterday, and I was looking for them. Like, non-stop, and here they are. You know what? We can use these. I don't even care. We can just roll off the dodge chance. I don't really care about the dodge chance for this build. What are we going for exactly? This is basic skills. We probably need resistance with this build. Either that or armor. It already has life and armor on it. So we could either go with dexterity or armor or resistances. Let's just see what we get. There's 111 dexterity. I mean, we could re-roll it to resistances if we really need to. That leaves a lot of uniques that I need to go retrieve. I need to go retrieve Andy's. I need Shattered Vow, which I believe is in here. Yep. The interesting thing about this build is that Rushing Claw is both a mobility skill and also a movement skill. So because it's a movement skill and you move like tremendously far when you're using this skill, it's very interesting in that it triggers both the Bach rune and the Yule rune. So the Yule rune, which is the cooldowns, suspending cooldowns. So every single time you Rushing Claw, it counts as a cooldown. And every single time you move with Rushing Claw, it counts as movement. So you can actually get a lot of procs with the ability, depending on what you're trying to proc. Alright, we need some rings. Okay, that will work. And it's a good thing I keep a bunch of crappy rings in here.
Yes, you can put runes in mythics. I don't know why you asked that.
Yeah, he asked that earlier. I answered it. I'm not sure why you would think that you couldn't. It's kind of an odd question.